I'm Katie Norris. I'm the curator at Pallant House Gallery. The exhibition is called Christopher Wood Sophisticated Primitive, and the purpose of the exhibition is to bring together probably the most comprehensive exhibition of his life and career for the last sort of 30 years or so. And it brings in elements from his early career in Paris right through to his life in St Ives and in Brittany before he died at the age of 29. And I think it's actually really valuable to see an artist during these formative years. Well, he was born in Knowsley near Liverpool, and he had a fairly sort of Victorian upbringing, really. You can trace his interest in art right back to when he was a teenager. He was at Marlborough College and he had a football accident, and as a result of that contracted a blood disease. So he had to return to his family home and was looked after by his mother. And from that time we know that he started making watercolours and drawings, and she encouraged that early interest in painting. And then at the age of 19 he went to Paris. So he went to London first. And there are rumours that he met Augustus John and he knew a circle of people in London, but it was actually by chance that he met a collector, a really affluent collector called Alphonse Kahn, who invited him to go to Paris. And it was from there that he met these really important figures like Jean Cocteau and Picasso. In Paris, he saw the work of Picasso, Cézanne and Van Gogh in museums and galleries. The thing that he took away from that was that they were trying to see as children. And it's that kind of early seed of what they're trying to achieve, which he saw really astutely. He really understood what they were trying to do, that he then went on to develop this primitive style. He's one of those artists that was trying to unlearn what he knew. And so he's absorbing lots of different elements of modern art. Cubism, fauvism, you see bright colours and patterns, sort of fragmented picture planes. All of that you can see in the first rooms of the exhibition. He then came back to England and had a career in England. It's probably his involvement with Ben and Winifred Nicholson in Cumbria and in St Ives that we best know him for. And from there they meet Alfred Wallace, the untrained retired seaman in St Ives, and again that kind of channels his vision even further. This faux naive primitive style was shown at exhibitions such as the 7 and 5 group exhibition, which he was a main part of. In England that became almost the most important style during the 1920s. But actually what's interesting about Wood is that although the 20s had this sort of moment for these artists, it was quickly sort of superseded in the 30s by an interest in kind of high modernism and this abstraction. And because Wood died when he was 29, in 1930, we never see him progressing into that sort of later development in modern British art. There are conflicts just even with the circles that he's inhabiting. The Nicholsons are living a very modest life up in Cumbria in their home Bankshead, and that's something he really values and wants to channel in his own work. But the people he knows in Paris, Jean Cocteau, his lifelong companion Gandarias, are taking drugs, are living a very decadent sort of life, and so he finds it very hard to fit those two elements together. He's taking opium, and that's also sort of messing a bit with his mind and his sort of sense of reality. And then there's a high pressure, this kind of demand from himself really to become this great artist, this great painter. And so there are moments in 1929 and 1930 where he's having to prove himself. He has a very big exhibition at Bernheim Jeans in Paris, which is a great achievement for a young painter. It goes well, but from there it's almost like a kind of make or break moment in his life. And from Brittany in France in the summer of 1930, he comes back to the south coast, meets his mother outside Salisbury Station, and then throws himself in front of a train at Salisbury Station. It seems like maybe at that time he was actually suffering from the effects of opium, but it's a kind of mix of all these different problems that are going on in his life, I think, that push him to that moment. Definitely there's a question mark over what he could have done, and he does in many occasions sort of end up in a conversation about Ben Nicholson. Ben Nicholson went on to have this really important part of modern British art, in the early part of the 20th century, and Wood would have been there right alongside him, and maybe involved in abstraction, maybe involved with surrealism, maybe neo-romanticism in the end. But it's because I guess we'll never know that we can only value what we see in the exhibition.